Well, good morning. And it's Thursday morning. It's January the 15th. And today's devotion is going to follow up on yesterday's devotion, which was about the prodigal son and the older brother as well. Two sons, it was entitled. Well, today its title is Two Kinds of People. And from Luke 15, just as yesterday's was, but this is verse 11. Jesus continued, there was a man who had two sons. Most readings of this parable have concentrated on the flight and return of the younger brother, the prodigal son. That misses the real message of the story, however, because there are two brothers, each of whom represents a different way to be alienated from God and a different way to seek acceptance into the kingdom of heaven. The targets of this story are not wayward sinners, but religious people who do everything the Bible requires. Jesus is pleading not so much with immoral outsiders as with moral insiders. He wants to show them their blindness, narrowness, and self righteousness, and how these things are destroying both their own souls and the lives of people around them. It is a mistake, then, to think that Jesus tells this story primarily to assure younger brothers of his unconditional love. Oh, the original listeners were not melted into tears by this story, but rather they were thunderstruck. They were offended and infuriated. Jesus' purpose is not to warm our hearts, but to shatter our categories. Through this parable, Jesus challenges what nearly everyone has ever thought about God and sin and salvation. His story reveals the destructive self centeredness of the younger brother, but it also condemns the elder brother's moralistic life in the strongest terms. Jesus is saying that both the irreligious and the religious are spiritually lost. Both life paths are dead ends, and that every thought the human race has had about how to connect to God has been wrong. The older brother represents the Pharisees that were in the crowd that day listening to this story, and without a doubt, they recognized right away that in this story, they were the older brother. They were the unforgiving, snobbish, we're perfect, we do everything right attitude, all the while looking down their noses at other people they considered less than them. And so, two kinds of people. And Jesus gives them each a part to play in the prodigal son story that so many of us know so well. So many of us, when we hear it and when we consider the details of that younger brother, some of us can clearly own up to having gone down that path, to having choices, making choices on our own, irregardless of the fact that it hurt our family or alienated us from others with whom we'd grown up. All those different kinds of things are wrapped up in the younger brother's desire to leave home and and go do his own thing, live it up, party of time kind of attitude. Meanwhile, the older brother, he's just a sour apple, isn't he? With his attitude, he wouldn't even come to the party. He wouldn't even come back home and back to the house and give his brother at least a quick hug and welcome home kind of thing. No, he's not going to do that. And that is being self-righteous. And when we slip into the self-righteous mode like the older brother, we commit the sin of judging others. It's a dangerous place to be, and we need to be careful that we don't do that. That we don't do that. That we don't think that our self-righteous deeds earn us heaven, because they don't. I love that line. Well, I don't know that I love the last line, but the fact of what he says here, um, I guess it's a long sentence. It's a Paul type written letter. His story reveals the destructive self-centeredness of the younger brother, but it also condemns the elder brother's moralistic life in the strongest terms. Jesus is saying that both the irreligious and the religious spiritually lost. One's not better than the other. We're both spiritually lost. Both life paths are dead ends. And that every thought the human race has ever had about how to connect to God has been wrong. Wow. That's kind of harsh, Mr. Keller. But it's true. It's true. Much of the Old Testament times, it was trying to get to quote unquote God, but a God they'd made up, an idol. And it's not going to get you to heaven worshiping idols, which, if we're being self righteous, that idol is ourselves, and how wonderful we are, and how perfect we are, and all the wonderful things we do. And we become prideful, and God's opposed to the proud. So that's just a little thing for us to keep track on, that we're not blowing our own horn all the time. Definitely not to others, but we can also blow that horn in our own hearts and minds and think of ourselves, as Paul warned, think of ourselves more highly than we ought to think. So the question is, for this devotion, which kind of the two kinds of people are we, and are we striving to be? We don't want to be the older brother, but at least the younger brother comes home. Yes, he made wrong choices, and he squandered the opportunities he had, but at least he came to his senses. I always like that sense. When somebody tells me about a child in their family, or somebody in their family that's, gone off in the other direction, and it sounds very much like the prodigal son, my prayer has always been for people like that, because I needed that prayer. I did that. I I I wanted to go out into the world because they seemed to be having a good time, and I found out otherwise quickly. But I pray for those people that the Lord will bring them to their senses and help them realize and remember that what they had was better than what they got themselves into, and return back home. I looked I looked for answers out in the world, and I realized they didn't have any answers. They were all looking as well. Same thing. Same thing. Blessings to you today, and let's make sure we're doing all we can to stay near to our Heavenly Father and all that He has for us, all the blessings He wants to pour out into our lives. Have a good day today.